DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight's show is brought to you by cold weather from Minnesota. If you're enjoying a nice warm spot around the country, come to Minnesota and freeze. Ben, what's the weather like up in Bemidji?
Let me take a look here. You know, it's funny. Just shortly before I left for home tonight, I saw. I guess Minnesota is number one. We are number one as the worst winter state in the country. I wasn't surprised.
I saw that. Yes.
I think Dustin and a few others shared that, and I was going to share it, but it seemed like it was pretty well covered. And so yeah, we're not all right. So here we go, Bemidji right now.
7 below zero.
Yep.
That's kind of,
and it's supposed to get down to check out the low for Wednesday here.
Can we see that? We got a 19 below, 22 below. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah. Now, kids, that's not wind chill. That's actual temperature. That's not Celsius. That's Fahrenheit, and that's freezing. It's actually below freezing. Let me explain it. Minus 22. Okay, distilled water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, above zero. So this is a solid 50 degrees below freezing. Okay, for those of you in Florida who don't know what I'm talking about, that means that I would go sit in your chest freezer with an umbrella drink because it's substantially warmer than it is here. Don't think I will? Try me.
Yeah, exactly. We've been out there, and tonight with the wind, it's really yeah.
So I'm growing fur, you know. I thought, what would I do if I lived in the Arctic? Oh, I do live in the Arctic. Okay, well, I'll grow fur, and I'm dressed a little more warm
appropriate
today.
For the weather. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about lavalier microphones. We've had this question come in numerous times over the years, and we've talked a little bit about it, but we've never really gotten into it. And I threw it out there to say, Ben, can we get into that? And just watching the chat room. By the way, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us. In the description, click on the show to come in and watch it on YouTube, because on YouTube, you can get to the chat room and be able to ask questions and talk and such. But in the chat room, you guys have been already talking and sharing some of your lavalier stresses, difficulties, what have you. Because, Ben, I think this is an area that we all could use a little help and a little guidance.
Well, no doubt. I said this, 10 years ago. I said, I think they should include a sound guy with every lavalier, just put them in the box, you know? A real sound engineer, because they're probably one of the most challenging mics to use, in my opinion. And for lots of reasons, and we'll kind of delve into them. As usual, I am completely unprepared tonight. I brought a few little props, but I really figured we would just sort of see what those challenges and questions are, and we'll try to address them.
So let's kind of start out differentiating between because we've talked pickup patterns on numerous shows. Mm-hmm. Is there a major difference in pickup patterns then between a lavalier and a handheld?
Well, it depends. There it is right away.
So quick.
Because lavs themselves can come as omnidirectional, cardioid, supercardioid, hypercardioid. So it depends. You know, most handhelds, I was looking to see if I had one on my desk. Surprisingly, no, I don't. Most handhelds are probably a cardioid or a supercardioid. Just in terms of when I say most handhelds, I mean that most DJs would probably have, by default, it's a supercardioid or a hypercardioid or a cardioid.
Yeah, I don't have one here either.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I have a bunch. I have drum mics. Anyway, but a lav, you know, and they're just for anybody who isn't sure what a lav, sometimes called a lapel mic, because they're often worn on the lapel. Although they can be put other places, in your hair, that sort of thing, in theater and whatnot. Anyway, these are also available as super, hyper, or just regular cardioid. But probably one of the more common lav elements, maybe by a factor of 60-40, it's not overwhelmingly more common, would be an omnidirectional, meaning that this lav will pick up in all directions around the mic, which leads us to a great tip that I'm going to give you later, if you're good and you remind me, because I'm attention deficit, that omnidirectional can actually work very much to our advantage. So remind me to come back to that, John.
Okay, I will definitely do that, because omnidirectional has always been a word that makes me cringe and thinking it's a bad thing.
Well, it can be good. It's better at wind noise rejection. There's a reason they make them. And the answer, of course, is it depends, right? But omnidirectional definitely has its place, and there's a reason you probably see it in more than just cardioid, more of those than cardioid when it comes to lab. So,
I figured it was maybe more of a price point situation, that the Omni might be a less expensive element.
They typically are too, but I don't think that's, some of these lav mics are so inexpensive, if it's a difference of 10 or 20 bucks, and of course some labs are really expensive, and of course you get what you pay for too. There's something to be said for that, but your basic off the shelf quality lav mic from a good manufacturer like Shure or Electro-Voice or Sennheiser, any of those, they're going to be good, and they're going to be better the more you spend with them. It just stands to reason, right? So
Sure.
So what are you seeing on the chat board, John?
Well, they're talking about somebody said, how do you put a lav mic on a bride? And there's a lot of suggestions. Kind of fitting into the one I told you about that Jimmy shared earlier today.
You want my suggestion?
Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it's a serious one.
Yeah. No, they're still going off. Now they're talking about,
first and foremost, my answer is carefully. But in all seriousness, you have to be careful of the dress. That's sort of sacred territory. We're both married men, John, we know this. Any wedding professional knows this. So in this lav example, we see that this has a regular clip.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And you might say, where in the world am I going to put this on a bride? Because, that dress is, all the way up, and it's seeky and, okay. So first and foremost, the most obvious issue is that traditional North American, Western civilization wedding dresses are white, and this mic is black. So right off the get-go, you might say, we don't want that. Well, problem solved. We sell white lav mics. So call your favorite friend at NLFX Pro, and we'll get you a white lav mic. Two, there are other types of clips besides just this,
alligator clip. Yeah.
Clip. Yep. There are ones that are called Viper clips, or sometimes vampire clips. I don't know, the Viper sounds cooler, And,
yeah.
And kind of picture a viper with the two fangs. That's what the Viper clip has, is two little, sharp needles that allows it to clip to clothing that doesn't have a collar or an edge. And then another really cool thing, we also sell a magnetic lav clip. So you can simply put part of the magnet behind the dress and the other part in front, and it'll hold the lav in place. Now, film people and other audio professionals, are used to putting lavs on people. Not everybody is used to having a lav put on them. This can be maybe a little disconcerting. Obviously they probably know it's coming, especially if you say, well, I need to put a lav mic on you, and I'd like to put it here, and here's how I'm going to do it. Sort of help them understand the process and put them at ease a little bit, but also be sensitive to their personal space. And, many times I've given the lav mic to a mother of the bride or a personal attendant, or I've given the magnet backing and said, okay, listen, I don't want to be here when you take the dress off to put this on, just, put it about here and come back and see me,
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways around it. I've also, I've had, brides who are they just, and you're like, oh, well, okay. All right. We'll just put that there. You just be a professional about it. Don't be just don't be that guy, just do it quickly and efficiently, get on with your work and be a professional. Anyway, so those are some tips for putting that mic on a bride. Other ways, like I said, in theater, it's not uncommon for us to put mics in hair or otherwise try to hide in costume. So, we could actually spend a long, long time talking about this. And I think we'll just sort of keep it simple there with what we've talked about now.
You mentioned, of course, white. White and black, obviously, are two colors. And for those of you watching, in the description below the video, there's a link to go out to the NLFX Pro website. And I was just looking, and the white ones are on page 2 of that link. So, but I didn't go any farther than that, Ben. Are there other colors available also?
Oh, there absolutely are. And listen, I'll tell you what, thanks for posting the website link, John. That's fantastic. Don't be afraid if you're not finding what you're looking for to ask us either. We don't mind at all. Say, listen, I'm looking for a lab, and this is what I want. We'll do the heavy lifting, and we'll find it for you. So if you don't see it on our site, don't give up. Just let us know what you're looking for, and we'll help you find it. Think of it like the good old fashioned clerk mentality, just in a digital store, right? And people are like, clerk? What's a clerk?
What's a clerk? Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't seen one of those in a while. There are lots of colors available, especially if we get into the higher end labs and the theater models. There are even shades. You've got sort of your typical tan. You've got, like a cocoa and some brown shades. We've got ridiculously pasty Minnesota. That's what they call it, actually. Mm-hmm. They don't call it that. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I could see it though. There's going to be a slang for almost everything out there.
Yeah, we of Irish descent are not known for our beautiful tans.
Yeah, exactly. So we're white and pasty.
Our people burn.
Yes,
they need light pink, for Minnesota suntan.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I think putting the lab, and I want to finish with the bride thing.
Yep.
Putting it under the dress, under the clothing, is a lab microphone going to have any effect? Say if it was under the shoulder area of her dress, if it's under.
It depends on the fabric. This is also done. I've seen that done fairly successfully with tape. Again, in theater, my preference would be to keep the element out from underneath clothing. There can be some arguments in favor of it with reduction of wind noise potentially, but there's also opportunity for additional noise from the fabrics. Different types of fabrics are noisier or less noisier. Wools and cottons tend to be less noisy. Some of the synthetics and silks and whatever tend to be noisier. I don't know. I'm not a fan of putting it underneath stuff unless I have to, but I'm not really a theater guy either. So sure. I think if you had a different guy in the seat, you might get a really different answer, but it's my show. So
that's right. So we're going to go with that answer.
Yeah. Okay. I don't like having it under clothes because it sometimes I feel depending on the nature of the fabric, it can also attenuate some frequencies more. And that can be troublesome.
It could be a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not so good. Neither's my English. Words is hard.
Words is big stuff. Okay, so I think we're good. They were talking now. Reggie brought up windscreens can help a lot of these situations.
Yes, and we can sort of kind of jump off the rabbit trail, no pun intended, into what's called dead rabbits or dead cats, which is in addition to your fairly common foam windscreen that you see. These look like they're made of rabbit fur or cat fur. They're very furry, and maybe a terrible idea for a bride's dress. It may look hideous, but they do an amazing job of knocking down the wind. I mean, if you need it, you need the wind knocked out 100%, or 99% anyway. Those things do a great job.
How do they interfere with the vocal sound? I've wondered that because I haven't purchased one of those for all of my shotgun microphones and different things we use.
Yeah, you've probably seen those big dead rabbits for your Rode mics and stuff. Yeah,
I have. I just haven't gotten one yet because I've been thinking it's like, God, that has to cut into some of the vocal clarity, does it?
Not too bad. It would be a very acceptable trade-off for the wind. I'll tell you that. You could go back and add some more sparkle and stuff to the vocals with some post-processing or some EQ in a live setting. You can't get rid of wind noise like that.
Right.
So it would be, I would take it over the wind noise.
Interesting. I'll have to look at
and
that.
The effect is very minimal, especially the good ones. They're designed by good companies,
Okay. Now we're starting to ask about lab mics and feedback. I think that now we're getting into the magical area. The big sigh.
Like I said, every lav mic should include a sound guy. So, all right. So before we talk about feedback, let's talk about lav placement. And I think that is a really good lead into why feedback's an issue. Because we get into the inverse square law where that's every doubling of distance, we lose 6 decibels, and that has to be made up for by gain. And then there's the feedback triangle we've talked about. That was a triangle, wasn't it? That's pretty close. All right, triangle.
I thought it was a heart, upside down heart. I was wondering what you were trying to say. There it is.
For my viewers, there's a feedback triangle, which is relation of the source to the element to a speaker. And we've done entire shows on feedback, and they're worth a watch. They're better than just about anything on Netflix right now anyway. So anyway, maybe not, I don't know. But let's dive into placement, and let's talk about some pros and cons there, because there is some balance here. I mean, if you were to ask me, would I take a lav over a handheld? No, never. From an audio standpoint, I would always take a handheld. So why in the world would you ever want to use a lav? Well, for the obvious reasons. It's small and you can clip it places, There's some real advantages to having a lav over a handheld. There's some real advantages to having a head worn over a lav. For example, if the lav is here on my sternum, which is where we're going to sort of shoot to put it, and we'll talk about that in a second, and I turn my head, the distance has changed a little bit maybe, whereas the head worn, it's very consistent and it's closer to the source, but that might not always be an option either. So we're going to say you're using a lav, so it's the right choice. So how do you do it, right? It's my own little tangent there. You like that?
I do. But you made it eventually around with the tangent. You were headed down the road to the left, and then you just turn back at the last second, and boom, you're there.
If you give me enough time and I say enough words, it sort of makes sense after a while.
Or we forget where you were going in the first place, and this new place sounds.
Forget where I was going in the first place.
It sounds exactly like we were there.
So, and everybody just follow the bouncing ball. Can you imagine what it would be like to live in my head, John?
No, no.
It's a trip, let me tell you. So I've got my friend with me here today. Okay.
Yeah, look at that snazzy shirt.
Yeah. He's wearing his finest threads. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and we've got our lav mic here. Okay, and I'm going to see how cleverly I can do this.
Yeah.
I've never tried this before on camera or on a plastic person.
Now, will we be offending plastic people right now by this demonstration?
We'll see if they can comment. So we're going to shoot for roughly the sternum. All right. Now there's an episternum and a zipisternum and an almosternum, and it doesn't matter. Just sort of get in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what those different ones are. I just know they're there. Anyway, we're going to sort of shoot for the sternum. And the reason is that we want the best balance of gain loss from the inverse square law and proximity effect. The closer you get the mic to the mouth, the more it's going to affect the tonal quality of the audio. And you'd say, well, I thought you just said it was better to have the mic towards the mouth. That's true with mics that are designed to be there. Lavs are designed not really to be there. So if you have the opportunity and you want to play science fair, you could try moving it a little bit, and you might find a spot you like better. Oftentimes we don't have that luxury with brides and that sort of thing, and you got to work with what you got. But anyway, this is a pretty good starting place, sort of right about here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do something that's called a broadcast loop. Just sort of good, I guess good policy here. This is hard. I've never had to hold a person up while I did this before.
Yeah, typically they stand on their own, but
They do. But we'll give it a whirl here.
Excuse me, sir. I'm going to put a lav mic on you. Can you lay down? I've never done it standing up. Can you lay down? So there you go. Okay.
I've only practiced on plastic people. Could you lay down?
And please hold really, really still.
This is actually quite difficult because there's the back is hollow. So I'm actually finding out how much more I appreciate doing this on real people, I think.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is Quality TV, where we are going to be
That's right.
practicing putting a lav mic on a plastic mannequin, a half of a plastic or partial.
All right, we got her here anyway.
Okay.
So there's my little broadcast loop. All right, just here. It helps a little bit reduce the strain on the cable, and also will reduce our noise a little bit. You don't have the cable pulling directly on the element. And here, of course, I would just continue to tuck this in and maybe ask my person to just unbutton their shirt, slide the, lav cable down, or maybe I would do that for them if they were comfortable. And I'd say, here, do you mind if I just run this cable for you real quick? Oh, no problem. Okay, great. You could also poke the cable through and kind of fish it down. It's a matter of preference.
Right.
I think probably more so for your subject than for you. They're the ones that have to be comfortable. We're audio people. We don't really care. I mean, wiring monitors crawling underneath some guitar player's legs. You do what you have to do, right? So. Yeah. Anyway, so there's maybe ideal lav placement. And this is when we talk about feedback. Well, now of course, my voice is up here. We should get pretty good rounded audio down there. We should get enough, of the frequencies, some of the crispness of the audio, and not too much, a lot of boom of the proximity. That should give us a pretty good starting point. But we need some gain to make up for the distance. And that's where feedback can become a problem.
So let's hold that. Let's hold the gain. Let's hold the feedback. Doesn't matter if I have a unidirectional or omnidirectional or pickup pattern on that placement you just did.
Well, yes and no, but there's a trick that you can do with an omnidirectional that I keep hinting at here. I'm just trying to
I've got that down for later. So, okay.
Yeah,
so
just keep it hanging on the edge of our seat.
The yes and no is kind of what I was after. So we want to be completely in committal, and we want to say this awesome thing's coming at the end.
Yes, I'm going to be very non-committal, and awesome things are coming. But in either case, this is where I would start. In either case, this is kind of where I would start and see what happens. Again, if you're using a alligator clip like this, you really have to work with the edges that the garment provides you. If you have a vampire clip, you have a few more options available to you. If you have a magnet, you have more options available to you yet. But there's so many factors. And it will depend on not only the mic, but also the person and the environment, the wind and that sort of thing. So a little practice here. You guys practice everything else. You should, right? So you practice mixing and beat matching and all those kinds of things. Just practice looking in the mirror and looking awesome. I do. You could take a lav and practice a little bit and just see where you get the best sound out of that lav and what you like and what you're comfortable with too. So go find yourself a plastic person and give it a whirl.
That's so fun. One last thing before we get into gain and feedback. If we were going to tape that onto, for some reason we wanted to tape it to, where would you run the tape on that lav?
I would kind of make like a sort of a loop of tape or a triangle of tape and kind of, so it's sticky on both sides and try to stick it under the lav and stick the lav to the tape, depending on where I was going to do it. And surprisingly, that's another thing I don't have on my desk here at home is gaff tape. It seems I was actually surprised. I'm like, wow, I do not have gaff tape at home. Why I have gaff tape everywhere? Why wouldn't I have gaff tape at home? I don't know. I'm sorry, viewers. I'm very disappointed in myself. Which reminds me of Thanksgiving several years ago when we were testing a new form of gaff tape, a new formula.
Yeah, I remember this.
Remember that? Yeah, and I gaff taped all over the hardwood floors in the living room, so we'd get a lot of traffic on them. And my wife said, "If that formula isn't good, you're a dead man." Happy to report, I'm still here. So, anyway,
gains and feedback.
I guess it would kind of, for the tape, it would kind of depend on, where I was trying to tape it. If I was trying to tape it just underneath that, make sure we avoid, being close to buttons so we don't have them banging into the lav and that sort of thing. All right. So gains and feedback, again, give that feedback episode a watch. I think you'll learn a lot about what feedback is and where it comes from. You're not going to have universal feedback probably at all frequencies. You're going to have one or two leading offenders. And if you have good processing, you can knock those out. Unfortunately, most DJ controllers and whatnot aren't very well equipped for it or equipped at all. But fortunately, most DJs that are doing ceremonies and things are bringing a little bit more of a small live sound mixer. Of course, the bigger the mixer, usually the better the tools that are built in. But even a sweepable mid in a EQ would give you the opportunity to sort of find where that problem child is and knock it down a little bit. You can use things like a DSP or whatever. They're going to affect your overall audio, but nice thing about those is you can make some fairly small and narrow notches with a parametric that might not be all that. Might not affect your overall audio all that much, but it'll help prevent feedback. Again, series of trade-offs, and you say, well, okay, I had to make a cut, at 1.2K to get rid of this feedback, and so now I lost a little 1.2 in my playback. Yeah, but it's better than feedback, So trade-off maybe. Anyway, and so the reason that feedback is such an issue is because we need more gain to make up for that distance, and so we're just increasing the likelihood that the lav is going to hear the loudspeaker as well as the source, and that's when feedback occurs, is when it hears itself and it creates a loop. So a couple things, I think we've talked about this just recently. It seems to be that low cut filter, I'd knock out everything below 120 pretty fast. Just get rid of it and get it gone. You don't have any need for it in that lav, so get rid of it. Maybe even push it a little higher depending on who your vocalist is,
Now, this would be a little bit different also because typically with a lav, they're not singing. So I would think you'd have different vocal stresses on the microphone, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Very much. Absolutely. I would love, if it were me, I'd love to not use lavs at all, but I have to, obviously. And for the same reasons we talked about, I'm a spoiled brat now, and I admit it, that I get to go in with a really good console with a lot of opportunity to, very good parametrics and the ability to insert graphics or whatever else I find is a useful tool. But the good news is that technology is getting really, really cheap. You can get a really solid digital mixing board for under a couple grand that gives you an incredible amount of processing power, and it will make your life so much easier because you have those same tools. Maybe the filters and stuff aren't quite as good, but they're there. It's sure better than not having them. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I guess I didn't think of my struggles with the lav mic, and that just having better DSP would be able to fix some of those issues as much as, because we've all had that where that feedback is coming in. You're like, trying to deal with that.
It's incredible. Sam from our office, we're just having this conversation today, and we were talking about classes for educating people on how to use mixing boards and that sort of thing. And, what board should we use? And I kind of made the case that, I can mix on anything. Obviously I'm more proficient and faster on a board that I know, but fundamentally I can mix on just about anything, whether it's a Midas or a Personas or a Yamaha or an Avid or a Digico, which is obviously my board of choice, but it's amazing the sound quality difference. You take the same inputs and you put them on a Digico versus something like an LS9, and it's a completely different mix, so it's easy to, the guy goes, wow, that guy is so good. And you're like, no, it's just the board makes my job so much easier. Kind of like using good tools and mediocre tools to saws or whatever, to pick your poison, wrenches. I don't know, whatever tool makes sense to you,
Sure. We had a question about an affordable processor that they could use for ceremonies that you'd recommend.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you say the word affordable, it's really hard to overlook something like a Drive Rack 2, Drive Rack PA2 from DBX. It's only a couple $100, I think. Again, contact one of us from NLFX and we'll get you a great price and, whatever. But it has an app which gives you the ability to control it. And that means you can go a little, you don't have to be at the processor. You could be with an iPad out with the mic and, identify some problems. And it just a dynamite little processor for, a couple $100. And you can move up the food chain, whatever your comfort is. I really like the EVDC1, really great DSP and a great user interface. And then its big brother, which I really, really love, is the DX46, which has Ethernet ports on board, and that allows me to put it right in the Iris chain with my amplifiers and things. And so, it's just sort of part of that ecosystem now. But golly, I mean, for whatever a drive rack PA2 costs, it's great.
And has a lot of flexibility. I think we looked at that at NAMM. Didn't we highlight that 2 years ago?
Well, we might have, and I guess we're both going to be back there in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, we'll get to see what's new and fun, of course, with that, and be able to do our 10 picks from NAMM again if we can break off and have enough time to run around the floor again. That was kind of fun.
I'll tell you what, I had this conversation with people all the time. The Drive Rack PA2 has a automatic feedback suppression wizard in it. And if you watch our feedback episode, you'll see where I basically am not a big fan of those wizards. And I think you'll join the legions of other people that once I show you how to ring out feedback, you won't care for the wizard either. You'll just say, wow, it's just way better to just do it. I mean, take control of your destiny and go out there and do it the way the pros do. And personally, I think the results are better too. It's nice that DBX gave those tools, but it's really not hard. And in this day and age, with the tools that are available, it's getting easier and easier. I think, didn't we look last week about, we did. Last week's show, we looked at using an EQ to knock out feedback.
Yep, we talked feedback last week.
Mm-hmm. It's really that simple.
Yeah, we identified the feedback, and we have the incredible graphics. You guys, if you didn't get last week's show, you've got to check it out. The graphic
it's a free show, all right? It's free. Okay?
It was beautiful. I mean, there was the whole challenge that was presented, and the conflict was there, and then the resolution slide.
It's a free show.
It was beautiful. I wept.
Thank you. Say, I take time out of my day and slave all day over a hot keyboard to make these graphics for you.
For those
or
of you,
or whatever.
So before we went on live, Ben gets me the 3 pictures, and I'm looking at it's like they all look the same to me. Oh no, this one's got. Oh yeah, there's one. Okay, now these two are the exact same. No, there's one little thing there. Oh, yeah.
Well, but in John's defense, if you don't know, he recently had eye surgery, and he can't see much at all. So
you're not that well, but yeah, I thought it was.
We really, I'll tell you what, John, I speak for so many people when I say this, but we really appreciate what you do, putting these shows on and facilitating this. I know it can't be easy with, struggling with your eyes. And so I know I'm speaking for a lot of viewers that, obviously you get, folks like me and Brian and, Mitch and all the other guys that do the shows, but it doesn't happen without you. And we appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, it's working with good folks that make it so we can do these types of things. Otherwise, it never work. Never work at all. I want to talk a little bit before we jump out here, because we get Brian coming up here in a few minutes. Is there any difference between a wireless lav mic system, and I have seen some wired that are more of a direct connect lav system? I'm
going to put my plastic guy down here.
Yeah, you put your friend down. Yep.
Okay. It's hard. It's the only friend I have. I just really want to let him go.
Come back.
My son last night, enjoying his last night of winter break. He went back to school today. 2 hours late today, of course. First day back to school, and it's 2 hours late because of the weather, which never happens in Minnesota, but it did. He asks me, Dad, do you have a friend in, I forget what state it was? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, do you have a friend in some other state? I said, yes, I do. And he says, you have friends in every state, don't you? I said, yeah, I do. I feel very lucky about that. And then he says, wait, you have 50 friends? Like, yes, I do.
Whoa!
Mind blown,
Oh.
Anyway, all right. So,
and we're still going to talk about the omnidirectional trick that we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yes, we're holding that till trying to keep our viewers on the edge of their seat.
On the edge of their seats. But right now, is there a difference between like a wired or more of a direct wired lav or wireless?
No, not really. The element is the element. I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples, if you took an identical lav, really it's just a wired mic going into a wireless pack. Most lavs are condensers. I say most. I think it's all, but I'm going to say most just in case. Where they require a bias voltage, they require some power. which is facilitated in this case by the wireless pack. Otherwise, it's facilitated by a phantom power from your mixing console or a phantom power injector. But the elements are the elements. You could cut the cable and wire it for a mixing board. Noting though that you might need some circuitry to do that. Again, that sometimes it's a little harder than it seems. There's depending on how they've wired it with the power coming from the pack.
We talked about there's different
things like Zener diodes and stuff in there to make it work. But,
Yeah, things that my son knows all about, but I don't. He's like, oh yeah, this circuit has this and this and this and this.
He's a sharp kid.
Yeah, he knows, and he's got the steady hand and can solder. Yeah, I don't know where he got that from. It wasn't from me.
Well, maybe in 7th grade you had a steady hand too, but
yeah, that was a few years ago. So the different quality we talked about. There's a price range of lav. What as we go up, when we're talking handheld microphone, the element we get a better element, and it can give more of a rich sound, and we can have more of a defined pickup pattern. Mm-hmm. As we go up in price with a lav microphone, what are we getting for a benefit from going up besides better quality? How would we notice it?
Well, I mean, that's it. It's a better element. You may have more gain before feedback. You may have, better, audio reproduction, just, capturing more frequencies better. It may be that it gets smaller. Countryman's got a couple of great lavs, B3 and B6, and they're not much bigger around than the cable. It's pretty remarkable. And that's really important when you're trying to hide these things in costumes and that sort of thing. But I know that this answer just sounds like a cop-out to say, well, it's just better, but it's generally better in a lot of ways. So not much different than a vocal mic. You might say, well, these two look the same. Boy, this one sure sounds a lot better. There's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out. It's less that you have to try to fix at the board and less that you can't fix, sometimes. So.
And of course, there are situations because of wind or what have you where you just can't use that lav microphone. I mean, I think we've all run into that one, and I don't even think. I mean, do they make a windscreen good enough for a lav mic that could handle an outdoor ceremony with a good breeze going across?
Well, those dead cats and dead rabbits that we talked about, that's by far the best. I know they're unsightly, but again, you sort of get into a trade-off. Well, what can I do about it here? It's interesting. I try to be a pretty humble guy and a pretty understanding guy. Obviously, I come from a very humble background, and so I try not to be too judgmental. I think that's one of the reasons we do this show is to help people learn who want to advance. But I just saw a thread. Maybe it was today or yesterday on a forum, and somebody was asking about microphones, and it wasn't lavs, but somebody is saying, well, I have insert the name here, and it, kind of one of those no-name $50 wireless mics. And he goes, I think it sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking there is no universe in the world that mic sounds amazing. I mean, if you were to give it to a lead singer, they would literally throw it at you. It's just such a terrible sounding mic. But to this person, it sounds good, and I don't know why that is. Maybe they just don't know what good sound is. Maybe they have a tin ear. I mean, I'm not insulting them.
Yeah.
But so when you ask the same question about this lav versus that lav, it might be difficult to qualify. But like I said, if you took that $50 wireless mic and you gave it to a touring sound engineer, they would never put up with it. And it's not, you could do a blind test. They wouldn't know. Well, they wouldn't know it's a $50 mic. They just would hear it and they'd go, oh, no.
Yeah, it's not acceptable.
What is wrong? We have a big problem here. Something's really wrong, And
that's why there's writers.
So yeah, that's exactly. Well, and it's interesting because we kind of owe Evie we don't owe Evie anything actually, but I really want to give Evie a plug and take a real turn from lav mics. Because I want to talk about their new ND series mics. So that's something else we could squeeze it in.
Yeah, well, that might fit into this. My last question for you before we get into was, if I have a handheld microphone, and as we were going to talk, the new EV line, because when I was talking to Mike Dussault, he was talking about the capabilities of that line. There's so much flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Can a lav with the dead cat, dead rabbit, what have you, will it be better in a windy situation than a handheld microphone?
Maybe in terms of wind rejection.
Wind rejection.
We're saying that the lav has a dead cat and the handheld does not.
Correct.
Maybe. A lav, in my opinion, will never sound as good as a handheld, though. Those bigger elements, just by and large better. What I'm using here, same mic you're using there, RE320, which is, pretty awesome microphone. I'm using it for the same reason you are. It's not because Evie made us or paid us. I mean, I'm a dealer for Audio-Technica, Shure, Sennheiser, AKG, and everybody else. Obviously, I love Evie products, but I love a lot of stuff from these other guys too. I'm using this mic because it's a great mic. It's a broadcast standard, and the same reason you are. Just about every radio station in the world, you're going to see either the RE20 or the RE320.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's the short answer, I guess, is maybe.
Maybe. It depends. Maybe. Ladies and gentlemen,
maybe.
You want answers. You come to Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe, and you get definitive answers each and every time.
You get absolutely definitive maybes every time. So since we're talking about EV mics and whatever, can I talk about these ND series mics?
Yeah. Let's talk about that, and then we're going to wrap up here.
This is totally unsolicited. I tell you, like I said, we don't owe EV anything here. But I wanted to mention this, and I wanted to say recently, I was on a tour that was. I got to be really careful what I say now here, actually, but endorsers of a different brand. And it was really just out of curiosity that the production manager and I wanted to try these out. They were brand new. The EV mics were brand new. And I said, well, let's give them a whirl, And, we tried the drum mics and some of the instrument mics, and, the artists have in-ear monitors and they can hear very well what's coming through. And we kind of did some A/B. We had a little time. And, surprisingly, we actually did a bunch of legs on the tour with EV mics, even though they're endorsed by somebody else. We're like, well, where can we get away with where nobody will see this because we like it so much better, we want to use it. That is the God's honest truth. We're like, wow, that EV mic just sounds better. Well, let's see, we can get away with that on tom and snares. Nobody will ever see that, And so here they are, the new ND series mics, and I am in love with. I'll get to that one in a minute, but. This is the ND46 instrument mic. It's got a locking positionable. You can hear the audible click there. Mm-hmm. Positionable head. Very cool. I am absolutely in love with this for snare now, the ND44. Super geeking on it. Again, flexible angle, and comes with drum mic mounts. It's now my new de facto snare mic. I mean, if it's my choice, that's what I'm picking. I'm still very comfortable with like the SM81 and the E914 for overheads, but I'm really quickly falling in love with the 66. Again, the flexible head thing seems to be kind of a theme.
Yeah.
So I really dig that. It gives you incredible flexibility at the gig. There's a good promo shot for them. And then they have their new ND68, sort of the new cousin of the 868 kick drum mic. There was a question the other day on the forums about, what drum mics do you use? And again, I'm a spoiled brat. I get, probably close to 100 to choose from at this time after 24 years in the business. But, there's a lot of, D112 and the Beta 52 and the 91 and so many great choices, but I think Evie did a dynamite job with the ND series mics, and they're very affordable. I'd urge you to check them out if you're looking for some instrument mics, and their vocal mics dynamite too. I didn't include it, the 76 whatever, but and of course feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get you some of that industry insider pricing. So
Cool.
There's an unsolicited plug. I don't know. Hopefully Evie buys some more ads from you or something. So, I just wanted to say that's how I feel, honestly how I feel. And I see it more and more. So get you some.
There you go. Yep. Because they are good ones. We've got a couple of them that we've had in our, and I think goodness, one of them probably is 15 years old, and it sounds as good today as it did the day I bought the thing.
Like I said, can't give it a better endorsement than that. Than, when a couple guys try it, a professional musician, a professional front of house engineer, production manager. None of us just woke up, yesterday. We were born yesterday. I guess we did wake up yesterday. Anyway, but we all know and have strong opinions about sound, and it wasn't a tie, or wasn't a majority vote. It was an absolutely unanimous vote.
Mm-hmm.
We were all like, wow.
It sounds good. Yeah.
And I think it surprised them. I think, the one guy didn't have a lot of experience with EV mics. Certainly, not what he was used to. And I think he was very surprised. So anyway, all right, enough kissing up to EV.
So now we need to talk about the benefit of that omnidirectional microphone. We've been toying around with it. We got to get that because Brian is headed in here in a couple of minutes.
Yes. I'm Brian Red's opener. All right, we'll try the Plastic Man trick again here. This is anticlimactic. I'm sorry.
I know. We were building up to it, and then just a second. Well, we have to undress the mannequin.
Live television, folks.
Yeah, this is why we tuned in, learning how to dress a mannequin, so you can go work at the local.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this will get me a job at the Abercrombie and Fitch or whatever it is now. I don't know.
I don't know what's hip with the kids today.
My wife does all my shopping. If you've seen me and I looked like I was from this century and was fashionable, that's because of my wife. If I didn't, it's because I packed my suitcase. So, you seen the meme Laundry Day for Sound Guys, and it's a clothesline full of black T-shirts.
It's
true. So anyway,
I think I know what that's like.
All right, so here we got our loop.
Yes.
Same old loop, but my lav is upside down. Now, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
To cut down on our plosives, our P's and B's, and if we're having some trouble with plosives, and again, because of the fact that this mic is omnidirectional, it's going to pick up the same in all directions. But we're going to avoid those plosives right on the element, and still should get most of our higher frequencies, and again, try it. And if you don't like it, flip it back. But anyway, it's kind of a neat little trick. And it's really fun because when you do it and people say, "Oh, it's upside down," you say, "No, it's not." I'm a sound guy. You're not. Just I got this. Don't worry.
So would that be beneficial on the spot where you have a very loud, say if you're going to have a presenter that's going to be talking at a corporate event, and they're going to be talking really, really loud, and they're going to be, and would that help in that situation? Or is that just mainly we handle the game?
But, that's overall amplitude. I think it's more if you have someone who really pops their P's and stuff like that, where those plosives are really coming through, of course, proximity effect, with that too, just backing the mic off a little bit, but flipping it upside down really seems to do wonders.
Interesting.
It's worth a try. It only takes a second to do. As a bonus too, when that loop comes around, it's now facing down. The cable's heading down. So it really does tuck in nice. I've said this before. I think if you got 10 different sound guys on this show, you might get 10 different opinions. And maybe all of them are right. I don't know. I think that there are some really hard and fast rules. There are some absolute laws of physics that are irrefutable. And then there's art form. And I think there's very much an art to this. So this is much more on the, if it works, it's the right way. So
we'll wrap it up with that. Ben, thank you much for your time tonight. Gang, again, if you want to go and check out the different assortment of lav options that they have at NLFX Pro, down in the description below is the link. You can go check that out. They also sell gaff tape, so if you really want to, you could go and you could send Ben a roll of gaff tape for his basement.
No, don't send me gaff tape.
I'm
Just
kidding.
buy our gaff tape and use it because it's great gaff tape and it's very affordably priced. But I have no excuse for not having it in my house other than I guess I don't gaff things in my house.
After the floor, your wife
Yeah,
just
that's-
cleared the house out. She's like, he's not having this in here again.
I know what's going to happen too. And as soon as I leave my little geek cave here, I'm going to find a roll of gaff tape in this house somewhere. I'm sure it stuns me that I don't have any. I just didn't see it in front of me because one of the other things you can do, and I think I mentioned this, I hope not, otherwise I'll squeeze it in, is you can make that secondary loop and just put a little piece of tape around that. And that'll help, put a secondary loop that you're going to tuck underneath the shirt. And that'll help with noise from the clothing and whatnot. So
Keep everything together.
you would use some gaff tape for that.
Good,
Still
good.
-7. I've been watching the temperature. It's sort of like the movie The Day After Tomorrow where but I guess not yet. So
Yeah, it's getting cold. So, gang, we'll be back in about 10 minutes with Brian Red tonight. Ben, thank you much. Next week, are we going to be able to are you on the road?
let me check my schedule. Let's see. Next week I will be on the road, but I think we can probably still do something. I'll be I'll be at the Target Center, but I think we could get a connection from a hotel or something. So.
Nice. Well, let's see what we can do, and we'll let you guys know. Just watch the Facebook channels, and we'll post links and such once we have it figured out. So, Ben, thank you much. Gang, we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes.